Hey, kids. Oh, hey, Zoe.
Hello.
What are you working on?
I'm building.
Cool. What are you building?
I'm not sure yet, but it's going to be awesome.
So far, it kind of looks like a wall. And you know, that reminds me of our Bible story for today.
Yeah, but doesn't everything remind you of our Bible story?
Well, okay, maybe. But really, in our Bible story today, we're learning about Nehemiah. He had to build a really big wall around a whole city.
I don't think I can build a wall that big. That would take forever.
Nehemiah had help. A lot of people worked together to build that wall. And most importantly, God was with him. This week, we are learning that God is stronger than those who are against us.
God is stronger than those who are against us. Were there people who were against Nehemiah?
Yep, they made fun of him. They threatened him. They even made plans to hurt him.
Well, what are you waiting for? Did the wall get finished? Let's hear the Bible story.
Last week, we learned that some of God's people had started returning to Israel and to their most important city, Jerusalem. And they had started to repair and rebuild. Nehemiah was one of God's people, but he worked for King Artaxerxes, far away in Persia.
Artaxerxes?
That's the one.
Can I call him Artie for short?
If it helps. So Nehemiah was in Persia, working for the king. Nehemiah was the king's cupbearer.
His job was to put bears in cups? That sounds hard. You've got to have either really big cups or really tiny bears.
No, he didn't put bears in cups. Being a cupbearer meant he would serve drinks to the king in a cup.
Oh, that makes more sense.
One day, Nehemiah gets news of how things are in Jerusalem.
How are things going in Jerusalem? Terrible! Things are a mess! The people who have returned to Jerusalem are ashamed! The wall of Jerusalem is still broken down! The gates are burned!
Even though the people had been back in Jerusalem for a while now, the walls had still not been fixed. This made Nehemiah very sad.
Why was he so sad about a wall?
That's a good question. The wall did help to protect Jerusalem, but I think it was more than that. The city of Jerusalem was God's very special city. But instead of a wall around the city, there were piles of rubble and stone and burnt gates. It was a mess. God's very special city was supposed to honor God, but Jerusalem did not look very special like this. Nehemiah loved God and wanted God's special city to show everyone around how awesome God is. But it couldn't do that while it was looking like a big mess. When I heard these things, I sat down and cried for several days. I was sad and did not eat food. I prayed to the God of heaven. Nehemiah prayed. He said, God, you are so great and you always keep your promises. I am sorry for all the wrong things the people of Israel have done. And I am sorry for all the wrong things that I have done and that my family has done. We have not obeyed you. And Nehemiah asked God for help. Have you ever had a problem and asked God for help? Did you remember to pray first? Or did you try to fix it yourself before talking to God about it? Nehemiah was still sad when he went to serve drinks to the king.
Why are you so sad?
Nehemiah was afraid. He had never been sad in front of the king before. He answered,
Your Majesty, I hope you live forever. I'm sad because the city my family is from has been destroyed. What is it you want?
Nehemiah prayed to God, and then he answered the king.
If it is all right with you, let me go to the city of Jerusalem. I want to rebuild it.
He asked the king for permission to leave and go to Jerusalem to rebuild the wall. This was a brave thing to ask the king. The king could have gotten really upset. He asked me, how long will your trip take? When will you get back? It pleased the king to send me, so I set a time.
Yay! King already said yes!
Then Nehemiah even asked the king for all the supplies he would need to rebuild the wall. God moved in King Artaxerxes' heart.
Here's everything you will need.
Nehemiah traveled to Jerusalem.
What was that?
When he got there, he inspected the damage and talked to the people. He said, "Come, let's rebuild the wall of Jerusalem. Then we won't be full of shame any longer." I also told them how God had been kind to me, and I told them what the king had said to me. Then they answered, "Let's start rebuilding." So they began to work hard. They started rebuilding the wall. But there were a few people who lived nearby who were against Nehemiah. They didn't want Jerusalem to be rebuilt. They made fun of the people building the wall, and they laughed at them.
Ha 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 ha. What do you think you're doing? You look like you're starting a rebellion or something.
But Nehemiah and the people kept working. They split up the work. The people would work on the parts of the wall that were nearest to their own home. Even some entire families would work together on the parts of the wall.
You are all weak. Do you really think you can make something out of these piles of trash? Even a little fox could knock over the wall you're building. Ha ha ha!
Wow, those guys are being mean.
Yeah, and they didn't stop with just making fun of them. They started planning to hurt them and even to kill them. But Nehemiah prayed.
Lord, please help us.
Remember, God is stronger than those who are against us. Some of the people who lived near the enemies overheard their plans and warned Nehemiah. So Nehemiah had some people stand guard with swords and shields and bows while others continued building. Those that were building kept a sword at their side. Those that were carrying supplies worked with one hand and carried a weapon in the other.
I see you couldn't act that one out with the toys, huh?
Nope.
Nehemiah encouraged the people. He said, "Don't be afraid of your enemies. Remember the Lord. He is great and powerful." And he told them, if they hear the trumpet blow, that means someone is being attacked. Come running to help, but don't worry, because God will fight for them. He knew that God is stronger than those who were against them. So they kept building. Our enemies were trying to scare us. They were thinking they will get too weak to work. Then the wall will not be finished. But I prayed, "God, make me strong." And they kept building. Then their enemies even paid someone to try and trick Nehemiah. He told him, "People are coming after you to kill you. We must go hide inside the temple." But Nehemiah wasn't a priest. He was not allowed to go inside the temple. He realized he was being tricked and refused to go. His enemies had tried to use fear to get him to disobey God so that the people wouldn't trust him as their leader anymore.
That's sneaky.
It was sneaky, but none of their plans worked. God was with Nehemiah and the people, and God is stronger than those who are against us. After only 52 days, the entire wall around Jerusalem was complete.
Yay!
They finished the wall in record time, even though people were working against them. Nehemiah and the people could see that God is stronger than those who were against them. We talked a lot about building today, and you probably don't have a wall you need to build. But did you know we can build up people?
Do you mean stacking them up like bricks? That sounds dangerous.
No, that would be dangerous. Building someone up means to help someone feel better and do better, to encourage them. In 1 Thessalonians 5:11, the Bible says, "So encourage one another with the hope you have. Build each other up." Have you ever felt like people were against you, or that things were just not going your way? Has anyone ever encouraged you? What has someone said or done that encouraged you when you needed it? Other people feel that way too sometimes. Maybe they even feel broken down like the wall around Jerusalem was. Did you know that God can use you to build that person back up? Who do you know that you can encourage? What would you say to them? So Zoe, what did you end up building?
It's a circus.
A whole circus?
Yep.
Like with elephants and trapeze and clowns in a tiny car?
Yep.
But I don't see any.
Of course not. They're on the other side of the wall, silly. Can't let the elephants get loose.